Yaram Chevanarottamam Devim Sadasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodhire Nashna Priyeshu Bandresu Nityam Bhagavata Seva Bhagavati Uttamashuki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigamalkalpaduragaritam Padam Shukamukaram Rita Davisamtam Pibata Bhagavatam Rashamadhyam Mahoro Horusi Bhuvivakaham Krishna Sadamupagate Dhamikiri Karonastan Dishamisha Padanako Dunoditaham Twamapiadavishuddha Vishadham Vivo Samapyarena Vidambaritsaram Prakyayidaho Maranam Sanklesha Nirvanam Sandanyantaham Chakvasharanam Charanam Bhushamahari Bhajana Pakvatavane Yatraka Babura Murishakarvatatam Bhadata Shuddhamaham Anartha Pashamam Shakshat Bhakti Yogam Lokashatanam Chakra Satvara Samitam Atmanamastamuni Nigranti Abhikara Kurvanti Haitakamati Hita Bhuta Ganahari Om Aganati Manandasya Ganangana Salakya Chaksurin Miritam Yanatashmai Sugadave Namaham Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Swayam Rupakaramayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Gurupam Sagatatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Larita Shivishikan Vidam Sham Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devagurani Pachanini Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Praskata Desara Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare I have with me on Zoom Rob Grant. You have a word for us this Monday morning, Rob?
Good morning, Prabhuji. It's a wonderful day to have a wonderful day, as Raghunath says. So I'm excited for the start of a new week, and enjoying a wonderful, beautiful sunrise despite the smoke, or because of the smoke. So even though the smoke makes it hard to breathe, there's some beauty to it too.
And Rob is the recipient of a new subscription of Back to Godhead magazine. So he got an issue recently, and something transcendental in his mail for a change, isn't it? So good
Yes,
to hear from
Prabhuji,
you,
it is a blessing.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Rob. Good to hear that you're poised to start another great week in the service of the Lord. And we have also Govindadev on board here. He says, look like a holdup. Looks like a holdup. Oh, the background. Govindadev says it looks like some bandits with their faces covered. They're obviously blue collar guys, a little bit overweight. Normally, not transcendentalists, but the color festival, the way we present it to the public, is done in such a way that it really appeals broadly to people of all backgrounds and all tastes and all descriptions. It's the Blue Collar Bhakti Fest. We have it in the inner city, a beautiful park located in downtown Sacramento, Reno, Las Vegas. The entrance fee is like $6, which anybody can afford. There's food there, there's cruelty-free food, there's meat substitutes, yoga for those who want to lose a little weight or get their feet wet. People have never done yoga before and they want to try it for the first time. There's kirtan, people are hearing kirtan for the first time. They're being introduced to the concept. So the Festival of Colors is tailored for the broadest common denominator of people. And so I'm very proud to put this background up of three guys, ordinary guys, who normally wouldn't be interested in spiritual life, but for reasons of their own have appeared at the Color Fest. And I think you'll agree with me that although most of their visages are covered behind their bandanas, it looks, and they all have sunglasses on to boot. You could walk past them in the street today and you wouldn't know it. But they're emanating a vibe of having a good time, of enjoying themselves. And in this venue, there's no drugs, there's no alcohol, there's no meat, and there's no cigarettes. And yet these guys are having a ball. So potentially transformational. The Festival of Colors as it emanates from Spanish Fork, Utah. Thanks for that comment, Govinda Dave. Good morning, Rakesh G. Good morning, Brent. Brent was at the Sunday feast last night. He's on board with us this morning. He's eager, utsav, eager for transcendental knowledge. He's a serious listener, a serious hearer, which is the first qualification for success. Sanjaya was right on board with us as soon as we came on board. He was right there. Gene's celebrating freedom from prostate cancer, so he's obviously at the start of a great week. Who else we got? Ram Kishore, Haribo Ram Kishore. Good to have you jumping. Good if you brought the Festival of Colors from Minneapolis. It'd be very expensive. We have a motor home, we have a truck. And we get tired if we have to drive more than one day. And our expense account gets depleted because trucks only get like 8 to 10 miles a gallon, similarly for the motor home. So we just do Festival of Colors within one day's drive. And even some of those we dropped from the schedule because of 2 years of inactivity on account of the pandemic. I've gotten 2 years older, lost 2 years more worth of vim and zest. Also gotten a little bit out of the habit. So some of the more distant color festivals we've already dropped from our schedule, like Santa Cruz, Sacramento, Reno. Most probably, I don't, unless some young person comes, I can train them up. I can teach them everything you need to know. I can finance you. It's a golden opportunity for a young person. But so far, I haven't even had any clue or any glimmer of such a person appearing on the horizon. So unless until that happens, I don't see us going back to Riverside or going back to Los Angeles or going back to San Fernando Valley. Those were great festivals. They were a blast. But I just don't think the 74-year-old body can carry the weight of doing festivals 700 miles from home on my shoulders. But again, this is an appeal. This is a one ad. If there's any young person out there, here's a golden opportunity. So, but we're going to keep the Utah festivals, Ogden, Salt Lake City, and Spanish Fork, as well as Las Vegas. We've already got a date from the Parks Department in Las Vegas. They called me. They wanted us to book us, make sure they got us in and got us the prime location, the prime date that we wanted, because they love us at Sunset Park in Vegas. Thanks, Brian Saliba and all the crew down there. We love working with you, and we love the beautiful park which you provide and maintain for us to have our wonderful Festival of Colors. It's been about 6 years, and consecutive years we've been in Vegas. Anyway, enough preliminaries. It's Monday. So we have to reacquaint ourselves with each other after the long weekend. We had Stoga Krishna. Stoga Krishna is a sometimes listener on our thread here. He lives in Palm Springs, and he was visiting the area Saturday and Sunday with his friend Jim. They attended the Saturday night feast in Salt Lake City, and they came yesterday as well to the 5 o'clock feast in Spanish Fork, Utah. He's a Prabhupada disciple and had many, many stories. So we swapped Prabhupada stories and had a good time. Okay, let's get to our verse. It's a new verse. This will be part 1, the 21st verse, 5th chapter, 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the beautiful story of the absolute truth. Tvam atmanatmanam avehi amogadrik parasha pumsham paramatmana kalam ajam pajatam jagadam shivatan mahanubhava bhagadaha diganchatam. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the Supreme Supersoul Personality of Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. So here is Narada Muni talking to his disciple, and one thing the spiritual master does not do is flatter the disciple. Of course, so-called gurus who want name, fame, funds, and followers, they resort to the tactic of flattering their followers up to the point of telling them they're God in order to get more acclaim, fatter bank balance. But who is a bona fide spiritual master will never flatter his disciples. Disciple is the Sanskrit word sishya is the root for the English word disciple, and it means to be controlled, to allow oneself to be controlled by the spiritual master. The words of the spiritual master guide, uplift, and discipline or control the disciple. So if the spiritual master glorifies the disciple inappropriately with hyperbole and flattery, that's going to do nothing to bring the disciple into a humble mood of devotional service, just the opposite. What Narada Muni is doing to Vyasadeva here may seem like flattery, but really he's just telling the truth. Narada Muni is an incarnation of God. He's a sages among the demigods, but he's also talking, although Vyasadeva is a disciple, Vyasadeva here is described by Narada Muni as a plenary portion of the Lord. Dharma projito kaitavota namatsaranam bejam vashtamatra shivanam trapa Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kimva Para Isha Kimva Parya Ishvara. Ishvara means the Supreme Lord. Parya means equal, on the same level. So in the second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described Mahamuni Kimva Parya Ishaham. The Srimad Bhagavatam, which was penned by Srila Vyasadeva, describing Vyasadeva himself as equal on a level with Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the literary incarnation of God. We give the example sometimes of the moon. Sometimes the moon is a crescent, sometimes it's a quarter moon, half moon, three-quarters moon, and full moon. It's always the moon. It's not one moon, two moon, three moon, four moon. It's always the moon. But we see more or less of the surface of the moon. It's beautiful, it's radiant, it's silver, it's romantic, it has inspired poets since time immemorial. But we can't always see the full moon. We only see that once a month. The other times we see slivers of the moon, parts of the moon, but it's always the moon. The full moon, who appears rarely within this material universe, is Shayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Param Brahma Param Dava Povritam Paravam Purusham Sasatam Divyam Adidev Mahambajanam. Arjuna, after hearing from Krishna, declares him Param Brahma Param Dava. You are the supreme spirit. You are the supreme abode and purifier. Purusham Sasatam. You are eternal. And you're always a person. And you're transcendental. Adidev Mahambajanam. You're unborn. And you pre-existed. You're the source of all the demigods, of all the planets, and all the universes. And you're full with bliss, with knowledge, with eternality. That's the full moon of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, Vyasadeva is also the personality of Godhead, but he's not revealing all the opulences of the Lord. He's revealing one particular opulence of the Lord above and beyond the others, and that is the literary opulence, the opulence of a poet and an author. And there's never been, nor will there ever be, an author, a poet, up to the level of Srila Vyasadeva. So when Narada Muni speaks to Vyasadeva, who is his disciple, it may appear like Narada Muni is flattering his disciple, but such is never the case between a bona fide disciple and a bona fide guru. What Narada Muni is saying here is just factual. That's all. His disciple happens to be a plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his literary incarnation. Now here's some facts, here's some context. Context is always good. Sent Rob a copy of the Mahabharata by Sankirtan Das, a shortened version. I sent it out to all of our members because I know in my own case, back in 1970, I got a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. I started reading it, associating with devotees. But especially in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it describes all the warriors, Chaitanya, Ashwatthama, who assembled on the battlefield there at Kurukshetra. And I thought, who is he? Who is he? Who is she? Sikandin, who is Bhisma? Who is Dronacharya? Who is Ashwatthama? Who is Karna? Who's Sakuni? And I was curious to know the backstories of all these warriors who had assembled on the Kurukshetra war. So I was president in Sydney, Australia, back there in 1970. As the president, you're always talking. I had to give Bhagavatam class an hour every morning, and then reacting to whatever the devotees' concerns were throughout the day. So I got a kind of chronic sore throat. I was always hurting. I went to a speech therapist. She said, you have to stop talking for 6 weeks, otherwise you're going to have permanent scarring, permanent damage to your vocal cord. So there was a public library downtown Sydney called the Wilson Library. I found an unabridged copy of the Mahabharata, 12 volumes long, 800 pages, small print, published around the turn of the century by a Bengali scholar called Ganguly. I would take the bus downtown Sydney to the library every morning. I would read from about 9 till 3, come back to the temple. That's why I managed not to talk hardly at all during those 6 weeks, and I managed to read the whole Mahabharata. It did take 6 full weeks, which was a happy coincidence because that's the period of time that speech therapists had told me not to talk. So not only was I cured of my chronic throat pain, but I got all the context. I got the texture, the backstories. And it helped me appreciate so much more when the names come up and the situations come up. So similarly, let's do a little context before we talk about the philosophy and the literary contribution of Vyasadeva. Let's give you a little bit of background. Let's tell you his story. He appeared on the 12th night of the light fortnight in the month of Vaishakha, which comes April, May. This particular day is called Vashant Dwadasi. That means the day after Ekadasi. How the appearance of Vyasa took place is as follows, and it's mentioned in the address that Narada Muni directs towards Vyasadeva. It says, you are, what is it, the term they use? You are birthless. You are birthless. So how did that come about? Vyasadeva did not spend 9 months packed into the womb of his mother. His mother was Satyavati. She was, of course, she had a divine background, but she was she was found by her father inside the belly of a fish. Her original name was Matsya Gandha. Matsya means fish and Gandha means aroma. So she came having been discovered in the belly of a fish. Her backstory was she was a celestial maiden named Andrika, and she had conceived, the fish was actually a celestial maiden named Andrika. And this fish conceived 2 children by collecting the semen of the king of Chedi when his semen fell into the water of a river after he, who was an ascetic, having left his kingdom, saw 2 animals engaged in courtesy. So he ejaculated as a result of that stimulus by the banks of a river. His semen fell into the river, and the fish ate the semen and thus conceived children. And so Satyavati was so named because she appeared from the belly of the fish. She was discovered by the king of fishermen. I'm not sure what his name was, but she carried with her, having been conceived in the belly of a fish, and then having been born on the river and been adopted by the king of the fishermen and lived her whole life amongst fish and all. Beautiful, stunningly gorgeous divine maiden, but with a little bit of an off-putting aroma. So her father engaged her in ferrying travelers across the river. And one day, Parasara, the great Muni, engaged her to cross the river. So they got about halfway across the river, and by Krishna's divine arrangement, this sage, who normally had no attraction, was not affected by lusty desires in the least, had his lust under control, by God's arrangement, sitting close to her in her proximity in the boat, seeing her grace, her beauty, and a fog set in. So they were kind of like, it was not only physically tight, but the atmosphere itself seemed to be kind of closing them in, throwing the man, the sage, and the young fisherman's girl together. So Parshamuni Muni, by the arrangement of the Lord, he proposed a union. She said, no, 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 I'm not married. I'm a virgin. We can't do this. And the Parasara said, look, here's what I'll do. I'll create a special island in the fog in the middle of the river. We can engage in our romantic tryst. You will produce a child who will be an incarnation of God. He will not stay within the womb for 9 months. He will be described as birthless. He will be special, and you will remain even after producing this child. You will produce the child instantaneously. You will not show any signs of pregnancy. You will not have to endure 9 months gestation. You will more or less produce the child full grown without any pain, and he'll walk away, and you'll remain a virgin. And this is why Vyasadeva sometimes called Dwapayana. Dvipa means island. So he's called island born, inasmuch as he resulted from the union of Parasamuni and Satyavati on an island in the middle of the river in a mist. That's the background. And later on, Satyavati, she had 2 other sons by her, let's see, who was her husband? Satyavati had 2 other sons. Okay, I'll have to get back to you tomorrow on that. But she had 2 other sons, Chitrarana and Vichitabira, who died, and they were unable to provide any heirs to the Kaurava throne. So in those days, it was said that if the husband died, the brother of the husband could impregnate the wife. So there were 3 wives of these 2 kings, Vichitira and Chitragana, both of whom died before they could produce progeny. And so as a last-ditch effort, Satyavati called upon her son from her pre-nuptial days, the byproduct of herself and Parvati. She called on Vyasadeva to come and create heirs to the Kaurava throne by impregnating the 3 wives, Ambika, Ambalika, and Amba, which he did. But the problem was that Vyasadeva was a sage who lived in Bhadarika long hairs, didn't have access to shower or manicurist or barber or anything. And he's exposed to the elements. And so physically he wasn't particularly dashing. He wasn't like a handsome young king. So when he entered the chambers of the first widow, she closed her eyes. She didn't want to look at him. So her son was born blind. His name was Dhritarashtra. He was the oldest son, but he was disqualified from ascending the throne because of his physical disability. Then Vyasadeva approached the second widow, and she got pale when she saw this ascetic come into her bedchambers. She got pale, and her son was born as Pandu. Pandu means one who is pale. Pandu was the father of the 5 Pandavas: Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Bhima, Sahadev, and Nakula, by Kunti and Madri. Pandu also died an early death. And then finally, he was going to go back to the first of the 3. One of them had already gone away. So there was really 2, Amba and Ambalika. He was going to go back to the first one, the one who would close her eyes, and she didn't want to repeat the experience. He was too powerful for her. His austerity, his spirituality was just too powerful. So in the dark, she put her maid in the bed instead of herself. So son of this maidservant by Vyasadev was Vidura. Vidura was Yamaraj, Lord of Death, who had to take one birth as a mortal because of a previous curse. So Vidura was the well-wisher and friend of the blind king Dhritarashtra, constantly giving him advice to worship Lord Krishna and to respect the Pandavas. The advice of Vidura was mostly disregarded by Dhritarashtra, and so when things came to a head and Dhritarashtra's wayward son Duryodhana was precipitating a war that the Pandavas couldn't avoid, then Vidura, he just left. He was insulted by Duryodhana for taking the side of the Pandavas, and he just left the palace. During the whole war, all the events that preceded and succeeded it, Vidura was off touring all the sacred places of pilgrimage. And then he came back after the war, after Dhritarashtra's 100 sons had been killed, and he spoke very kindly and somewhat harshly to his brother to try and leverage him out of family life, get him to go to the forest, and at the last stage of his life become successful. Talk about tough love. Vidura said to his brother, Aho, mahi yashidanto, jivita shayataparam, bhimam pravarditedade, adade grihapalava, aho mahi yashanto. He said to his brother, oh, alas, how strong, how clinging are people who just hold on to with their very withered, palsied hands and within a death grip any sort of false, phantasmagoric prestige or fame. He said, your 100 sons who conspired against the righteous Pandavas were all killed by Bhima. Even Dursasana, his thigh was broken by Bhima. Duryodhana, his heart was ripped from his chest. Bhima fulfilled a vow of tasting Duryodhana's blood. Bhima killed all 100 of your sons, and so grasping, so attached, so pathetic are you that you're still living in the palace and taking the remnants, the scraps of food from the hand of Bhima. From the hand of Bhima who killed your 100 sons, you're taking food. Is it like a dog, like a household dog? So these words were effective. They did the job. Dhritarashtra woke up. Although he had been physically and spiritually blind up to this point, the words of his brother pierced into his heart, introduced some light into the dark corners of his heart, and then he had a realization of how degraded he'd become because of family affection and attachment. And he and Gandharva and Kunti all followed Vidura to the forest, where he gave up his body under auspicious circumstances and achieved the spiritual realm. So this was Vyasadev's backstory, not only the story of his birthlessness, his appearance on the earth, but his role in producing sons of the grandsons for Satyavati and perpetuating the Caru dynasty. And Vyasadeva also came to the Pandavas on several occasions when they were enduring exile in the forest, sat down and enlightened them with transcendental knowledge. Vyasadeva is the king of sages, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Here's a verse also. Now, Vyasadev's influence was extremely extensive. I don't know if you knew this, but Sanjaya, the narrator of the Bhagavad Gita, was a direct disciple of Vyasadeva. In the 75th verse, which is very close to the very last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter there, Sanjaya reveals this truth about himself. Prashadaks Trutavang Etad Guyam Atamparam Yogam Yeshvara Krishna Shakshat Katayatam Sham Prashad Shrutavang. Now, again, some backstory. Dhritarashtra was blind, so he was pretty much stuck in the palace in Delhi. He didn't have a lot of mobility, and it wouldn't have done him any good to go out to north to Kurukshetra, where the battle was taking place, as a spectator, because he couldn't see anything anyway. So he stayed in the palace in Delhi. His caregiver and secretary was Sanjaya. Sanjaya is a disciple of Vyasadeva. Now the whole Bhagavad Gita is narrated blow by blow, step by step, word by word, question by answer, by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra in Delhi, which is about 100 miles away. So the question is, how was Sanjaya able to envision, like television at that time, 5,300 years ago, the events that transpired in Kurukshetra? And this is the answer. Sanjaya says, Prashara Tritavam Etad Goyam, this incident, if you call it that, this war, just happening 100 miles away. I am seeing it, everything just as clearly as you'd see fruits in the palm of your hand. By the mercy, I'm seeing it, and I'm able to narrate it to Dhritarashtra, and through Dhritarashtra to us 5,000 years later, all of humanity. By the mercy, prashada, of my spiritual master, Vyasadeva. And he refers to his spiritual master, Yogam Yogeswarat Krishna, a mystical expansion of Krishna. Shakshat Katayata Shrayam. Katayata means I'm not just talking about it theoretically, but Shrayam. I'm directly experiencing it. I'm directly seeing it. So by the mercy of my spiritual master, Vyasadeva, I am hearing and repeating to you, word by word, the confidential talks which Krishna and Arjuna exchanged between themselves 100 miles away. But what we learn from this statement of Sanjaya, which pretty much closes out the Bhagavad Gita, is that one has to understand Krishna, not necessarily directly, but through the medium of a spiritual master. Spiritual master is by definition a transparent via media to God. Now we have someone who has achieved a lot of popularity called Sadguru. Sad means eternal and Sad means perfect. So here the definition of the Sadguru is given. And I don't know if the person who calls himself Sadguru is a Sadguru or not, but I'll tell you how you can tell so that you won't be misled or cheated. Sadguru is one who has heard about Krishna, who promotes Krishna consciousness exclusively and uniquely under the orders of his spiritual master. Just in the same way that Sanjaya is hearing the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna by the mercy of Krishna's own plenary portion, literary incarnation, Vyasadeva. So you know that with that mechanism of parampara, diciplic succession, what Sanjaya is hearing and what Sanjaya is repeating is the same thing, and it has the same potency as Arjuna hearing directly from Krishna. We're not Arjuna. We don't take birth after birth. Bahuni me vyati janmani. We don't accompany Krishna birth after birth like Arjuna. Saivayam yoga bhakta bhaktasimi rahasyam hiya. Krishna explains who Arjuna is. You are my devotee, but more than that, you're my friend. We're not one-on-one, tied at the waist friends of Krishna. Not even close. So the intimate, confidential knowledge which Krishna delivered to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, one-on-one, on that chariot, if we get it from Vyasadeva, Sanjaya, those bona fide representatives of Krishna coming in disciplic succession, it's just as good as hearing from Krishna directly. That's the meaning of Guru. Sadguru is a transparent via media. As good as Krishna. Sadguru never says they are Krishna. They never say they are God, but they represent God. They are transparent via medias. And the experience that you have hearing from a Sadguru, a bona fide representative coming to disciplic succession, is the same experience that Arjuna had. And your conclusion is going to be the same as Arjuna's conclusion. Param Brahma Param Dhamma Povitam Paramam Purusham Sasatam Divyam Adi Devamajam Vidham. To his friend, facing him 18 inches away on the chariot, his chariot driver, his chauffeur. Arjuna says, Param Brahma, Param Dham. You are the supreme spirit, the supreme abode, and the supreme purifier. Purusham Sashvatam Divyam. You are transcendental, you are eternal, you are the supreme predominant, the supreme Lord, the supreme controller. Adi Deva Jambita, you preceded, and from you proceeded all the demigods and all the sages. This is the symptom. This is the evidence that one is a Sadguru, that one concludes that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and none are equal to or greater than him, and no other activity of the human being can equal the activity of loving devotional service to the Krishna. That's how you know someone is a Sadguru. So I'm not saying this person is a Sadguru or not, but I'm giving you the information by which you can know if this is a bona fide Sadguru or if this is a pretender. And by applying these standards, which are the authorized standards given to us since thousands of years in scripture and concurred with by hundreds and hundreds of realized sages, then you will not be misled. Prabhupada said, if you cash all your life savings and you go out looking for gold, you had better inform yourself beforehand what is gold. If you go out on the street and announce, I've got all my life savings liquidated here, and I'm prepared to trade it for gold, you will be cheated. Any number of people will come up to you and present you what may look like gold or what they may call gold, but which in fact is fool's gold. And if you trade in your life savings for fool's gold, then you deserve what you got. Nobody goes out advertising their total value in exchange for gold when you don't even know how to test for gold. So you need to know, if someone says this is gold, you need to know whether in fact it's gold or not. You need to be able to test and verify its bona fides. Just because someone says they're a Sadguru or their followers say they're a Sadguru, that you need to be able not to just accept it foolishly, naively, unquestionably, but you need, if you're going to invest your valuable time and energy in listening to what this person has to say, you need to first determine whether it's going to be fruitful. Fruitful means bhakti tu ananya sakya hameva miragyatva drasim chavata. Krishna himself says, one can know me only by undivided devotional service. Sadguru is he who delivers Krishna, who is a transparent via media between yourself and Krishna, and the fruit of your connection to that Guru should be undivided devotional service, because that is the only way in which Krishna can be known in full, free from doubt. So Sad means truth. Krishna is the ultimate truth. So we can end right now. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat. That is our conclusion. That is the conclusion of all bona fide spiritual masters. It is the conclusion of all the sages headed up by Vyasadev. It is the conclusion of all the scriptures. And who is a bona fide Sadguru is perfectly in line with all of the above. More on this tomorrow. Thanks for helping us get a good jump start on the weekend. Motivational Monday. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Thanks, Madhava Das, for joining us. Prashant, coming through with that quote from the 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prashant says, spiritual preceptor who follows Sat. Sat is the pure path of sadhus as described within scripture and is delivered through Param Para. There, folks, is the definition of Sadguru. Shukshma, seeing the very colorful attendees behind you. Yeah, this is Tom, Dick, and Harry. My virtual background are Tom, Dick, and Harry, and it looks like they're at the Reno. It looks like they're in the Children's Adventure Park, which is the Rancho San Rafael. It's a section of Rancho San Rafael Park in Reno that we rent in order to have the festival. And this looks like Tom, Dick, and Harry. I'm not quite sure because of the sunglasses and the bandanas, but I think I remember their names are Tom, Dick, and Harry. See the tongue coming out of my cheek? Bhakti Gary, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Ram Kishore is a busy man. He has work and schedules, but he managed to fit us in. And don't forget, we post on our Facebook page. We post on YouTube as well. You're welcome to subscribe to our YouTube channel and automatically get updates as they appear. Vyasadev's husband was Shantanu. Thank you. Yeah, I can tell the story of Shantanu tomorrow. Thank you very much for supplying that, Prashant. Yes, Shantanu married Satyavati, and that, of course, brings up the whole story of Bhisma as well. Ram Kishore says maybe he can organize a festival of colors in Minneapolis. Well, it's a long drive. It's a long drive. And when you're driving this, we have an international diesel truck. And it's, I mean, I drive it most of the time. And honestly, after driving it all the way to Vegas or Los Angeles, I'm just like, it's a lot of shaking. It's a lot of, for 800 miles. Minnesota, I can't even imagine. Thanks for the invitation. I know your heart and mind is in the right place. But again, we need to find some of these younger whippersnackers. We need to find some of this younger generation. You know, our generation, like myself, we started a temple in Spanish Fork. We plant the seeds for a temple in Salt Lake City, and with the help of our congregation, bought a radio station. We started the Festival of Color as a seed, as a thought in our mind. We pursued the dream resolutely. We gathered the resources over a sustained period of time. We built it up. We put a lot of energy, a lot of finances into it. We invested in it. We did our homework. We paid our dues. We reaped success. We touched the hearts of a lot of people. We generated income. Now, all we're asking is for someone 40 years younger to just step in. Here's the keys. You don't have to conceive anything. You don't have to hope and pray. You don't have to work and break your back. You don't have to invest years and years and years. It's full blown. There are the supervisors, the staff of at least a dozen parks in all the major cities of the Northwest that will welcome you back with open arms. You have a good track record. People appreciate you. They love you. They recognize the contribution that you offer to the people in their area. So here I am, 74 years old. I'm finally hanging up my spikes. I'm not going to drive the truck to Los Angeles or to Riverside. Not going to do the permitting anymore. Not going to do the insurance, but I'll show you how to do it. I'll give you all the tools. Truck is there. It's already purchased and paid for, full of equipment. The PR is there. The constituency is there. The attendees are there in every major city in the West Coast. So, who are you? Step forward. It's a turnkey operation. Maybe you'll be the one, not only to step into our shoes and maintain what we've started here, but who knows? Maybe you can go and do the Festival of Colors for Ram Kishore in Minneapolis. But it's not going to be me, okay? I offer you my full support, my blessings, financing. But please, if you're out there, step up because we're not going to be around too much longer. I'm not choking up with sentimentality. Don't worry. Don't be embarrassed. I'm just choking up with phlegm. Anyway, the appeal I just made is no different than the appeal I've been making for the last 30 years. Where are you? Krishna, I think it's time. I know that you don't do things according to our desires and on our timetable, but the candle is burning short. I have a lot to give. I think it's extremely valuable, groundbreaking, difference making, but I need some person with less years to come in and take the keys. Enough said. Thanks very much for putting up with us, our rants and raving. But if you take the essence of what we offered today, it'll put you on the bona fide, authorized, authentic path, you and your loved ones, back to home, back to God. And if you minimize or you ignore what we're saying, not what I'm saying, but Vyasadev, Sanjaya, Asito Deva, if you ignore the weight of evidence as to who is a bona fide guru and who is not, and where they're going to take you, you do it at your own risk. We've done our part. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow with more advice from the sages, more wisdom of the sages, to take the title of Raghunath and Kastuba's show. And speaking of wisdom of the sages, Rob, do you have any wrap-up words for us this morning?
Thank you, Prabhuji. It sounds like maybe you should have a color of festivals class and offer to teach people how to do the color festival in their own regions, and teach them how to manage that and to come up with their own resources to be able to just be self-sustaining in their own areas, and limit the travel that the equipment has to go through.
Well, the equipment will still have to find its way to them, and someone will have to drive it. But permitting and social marketing, there's a physical work also, setting up the festival and breaking it down in the same day, running it, getting volunteers for the booth and all. We've intersected with lots of individuals in Reno and Sacramento, and they certainly appreciate our bringing the Festival of Colors to their town, and they recognize the benefit. But I have yet to see anyone that stepped forward and say, Caru, when you're no longer able to do this, how can we keep the Festival of Colors coming to our town? I haven't seen anyone that's even close to making that offer. But anyway,
they just need to be more independent.
Yeah, anything's possible. If Krishna wants it to continue, then he certainly will. And I know
Absolutely.
Tom, Dick, and Harry, you go back to Reno, some successor of mine or student goes back to Reno, there's Tom, Dick, and Harry. They're going to definitely come and buy tickets, chant, dance, and have a good time. They're not going to drink beer or eat meat on that particular day. So there you go. That I can guarantee you.
Yes. And as far as for what you were speaking today, it sounds like to me that I need to use the power of discernment when seeking spiritual guidance, and to act in faith and not in foolishness.
Yes, if there's one appeal that we make, is please use your God-given power of discernment. Yeah. Know the difference between true gold and fool's gold. Don't be a fool. God didn't create you to be a fool. God didn't create you to be duped. He created you to penetrate through the chatter and come up with the real thing. And he extends himself to you through Vyasadev, through Sanjaya. We're not going to hear the Bhagavad Gita directly from the mouth of Krishna, but Krishna appears in the form of realized souls. There's a verse, Vyaktam Atma Vatambaram Bhagavan Atma Bhavanam Shrananugrahanam Siddhim Charati Vidyaham. Says the Supreme Personality of Godhead out of kindness for the fallen souls. Vyaktam Atma Vatambaram Shranam Anuga, by his mercy, he walks the earth in the form of realized souls. That's how God comes to us. And when we take shelter of the lotus feet of such realized souls in the line of the civic succession from Vyasadeva, then it's just as good as being with God himself. And if you ignore that or minimize that, then whatever you get's whatever you probably deserve. Well, thank you very much, all of you. Did I mention who's with us? Jean, George, Govinda Dev, Ram Kishore, Prashant, jumping on board with lots of good quotes. Madhava, thanks for joining us. Rakesh, bye Bobby. Can Sadhguru be in Rudra Sampradaya? There is a Sampradaya which begins from Lord Shiva, and that's a bona fide Vaishnav Sampradaya. So a Sadhguru could be in a line of succession coming from Lord Shiva, but not worshipping Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's Sampradaya worships Krishna. Shiva himself has you notice Shiva with the beads around his neck. So the question arises, well, whose names does Shiva chant on his beads? And the answer is Krishna. Shiva says in Padma Puranam to his wife Parvati, Aradhanam Sarvasham Vishnurara Param Tajmad Paradam Divi Tadiyanam Samajanam. Lord Shiva's wife, Parvati, she says to Lord Shiva, she asks him, what is the highest type of worship? Lord Shiva does not say me. Okay? Lord Shiva, you want authority? You want authority? Shiva does not say and answer the question, the highest type of worship is me. He says, Aradhanam Sarvasham, Aradhanam means what? Of all types of worship, Vishnu Paratam. The highest worship is worship of Vishnu. And higher, Tajma Parataram Diri, higher than worship of Vishnu, is the worship of Vishnu's devotees. So that's the Shiva Sampradaya. That's the highest teaching of Lord Shiva. Not to worship me, but to worship Vishnu. But better than worship Vishnu is worshiping the devotees of Vishnu. Exactly what we've been saying for the last 45 minutes. Thanks very much for that question. George Govinda says, the only advice I remember receiving from my maternal grandfather was don't be a damn fool. Not very sophisticated, but over time, the best advice I ever got. All right. So thanks for being with us on Motivational Monday. Our advice is don't be a damn fool. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.